Yeah, I
So it
mean, I
was,
was scared that like this guy was just gonna show up at my house looking for my sister, and so on one of the things I did right away was like go and buy a firearm. Hola, mi gente! Welcome back to another episode of Corazon Chronicles. I'm Jannese.
and I'm Ray. What's up, guys?
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. If you are a returning subscriber, and if you're brand new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you never miss a new episode.
Get that.
So, before we hop into today's conversation, want to remind you that our partner and sponsor, BetterHelp.com, is here to help you get some therapy, y'all, because let me tell you, relationships are a little complicated and sometimes we just need extra support. So, if you want to get 10% off your first month, all you have to do is use our code Corazon to get 10% off, or you can go to BetterHelp.com/Corazon. We got all the info right here.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be a pivotal month for that as well, too, because we're coming into, well, we're already into Domestic Violence Month. So a lot of people are going to need to, reach out and at least have somebody to talk to. It's a great platform for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you didn't know, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. You might see people wearing the color purple. Folks are going to be bringing attention to all different types of domestic violence because there's a lot of different ways that can present itself. And so we're going to have a conversation today that hopefully can give you a little bit of insight to see if like maybe you are experiencing some form of abuse and you're not even sure about it. So I'm excited about this conversation because I feel like it's a topic that really needs attention, and it's one of those things that I think when people are experiencing it, there's a lot of shame around it, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of like,
Yeah.
I don't even want to tell people that I'm going through this. And so hopefully, by us having this conversation, we'll invite you to start to reflect on your own life and also maybe, offer support to folks in your circle who are potentially going through this as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I've got two diagrams that we're going to show for you guys. And one is going to be about the examples of possible, different types of domestic abuse, and then the other one is it's another wheel, but it shows a healthy relationship and the different types of sections and what that looks like as well too. So I guess we're going to kind of go over a little bit of our own personal stories with friends or our own personal stories of things that we've heard with some domestic situations, and some of them are pretty crazy. I'm sure people out there have crazy stories as well too. So what comes to your mind, like whenever you hear the words domestic abuse or domestic violence? I mean, everybody has like a situation that replays in their mind, or somebody that comes up. So what is that for you?
Yeah, I think back to stories that I've heard of my own family, like grandmothers who've gone through abuse, or family members, whether that's cousins or aunts. Unfortunately, it's very common, in a lot of cultures for women to be physically abused by men.
Yeah.
And so I've definitely heard those stories from my own family. My sister, who also has a podcast, Leanne, talks about her experience. Watch Us Thrive. You can subscribe wherever you listen to our podcast.
Yep, she's great.
Yeah, so the domestic violence has definitely touched my life very personally, especially with my sister. I remember that night that I received a phone call at 3 a.m. that, this guy tried to kill me and the cops are here and I don't know what to do.
Wow.
And I went into fixer mode, into big sister mode, and I said, all right, well, we got to get you the hell out of this situation ASAP. So I ended up booking her a flight back home, and I'm like, I'm grateful for the fact that I had resources in order to be able to provide her support, because oftentimes people who are going through domestic violence situations find themselves trapped in relationships, whether it's because of financial support, whether it's just because they don't have family support because that person has isolated them. And so, when you're going through this, or that somebody's going through this, I think the best thing that you can do is either reach out for support if you are personally experiencing this, and obviously do it in a way that you can stay safe.
Right.
And if you know somebody who's going through this, providing them with that listening ear, potentially giving them support, whether it's, referring them to a hotline that they can call, or a local organization that can support them, or even potentially calling the police. Obviously, every situation is different, and you have to make sure that, you're protecting yourself as much as possible. But I think bringing this to light is the ultimate solution, right? When people stop feeling shame about it, that's when things can start to change. So how about you?
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. And also I just wanted to touch on the being there for somebody as well. You have to really navigate those waters pretty carefully, because not everybody is in a position where that, like Jenny said, where they can walk away or that they can even say anything.
Yeah.
You know, it's to stir the pot or shake up the whole situation. It could be life or death for some people, for real.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think just always put them first, you know, no matter what you see going on. I know it can be tough sometimes. You know, you see somebody with bruises or something, and it's easy to be like, just come stay at my house, and you know, we'll call the cops and blah blah blah. But a lot of times these guys, you know, or the person who's doing the abuse, a lot of times, you know, it's a slap on the wrist in a sense. You know, they go to jail, they come back out in a day or two or whatever. You know, a lot of times they don't have to really do too much other
Yeah.
than like there's like a no contact or something, right? And that doesn't really save you, because if someone's pushed to the limit enough, and you've, you know, sent that person to jail, now you're going to be responsible for that. I think that you dealt with a little bit of like security concerns whenever you went through this whole situation with Leanne,
Yeah,
right?
I
So it
mean, I was scared that like this guy was just gonna show up at my house looking for my sister, and so on one of the things I did right away was like go and buy a firearm, because you know, living here in the state of Florida, it's much easier to get one, and I was just like, I'm not gonna be able to sleep at night unless I know I can like potentially defend myself. God forbid, you know, it's like one of those things you never want to have to use,
Yeah.
but you're very grateful if you do have to use it that you actually have one in your house. And so I'm actually a big advocate of women like getting comfortable using guns,
Yeah.
self-defense classes. Like, you got to be ready to kick some ass, because you might be the only person that can save yourself. And, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, and the self defense classes and stuff, you know, the jujitsu, all that stuff. That's all great. It's fine and dandy, but at the end of the day, I would allocate my time and resources to any type of defense for it to be some type of home defense or some type of, like, you know, concealed and carry. Because at the end of the day, I mean, I'm 6'2", 190 pounds, 195 pounds almost. Hey guys, too much rice and pernil on this side. But yeah, I'm 6'2", 195 pounds, and I mean, if I'm intoxicated or if I'm running off of some type of crazy adrenaline or something, I could imagine that it's like there's not much, right? You know, especially if as a man, if I know what I'm doing,
Yeah.
right? If I have certain techniques and a certain wrestling skill set or something, it's just not good, you know. And so I think about it myself, being a man, and I don't want to take anything to fist and cuffs anymore. I'd much rather just, you know, use my self defense if that's what I have to do. I really would like to just show it and be like, look, you know,
You don't want none of this smoke.
really, but it's like I just don't want to. I don't want to have to end your life over this. Like, whatever you're doing right now, it's not going to be worth your life. It's not me. It's not worth me having to fight some manslaughter charge or whatever. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's my thoughts on that.
You know, one of the things that I was shocked by watching the legal proceedings for my sister was like they categorize domestic battery and abuse differently than if you were to like attack a stranger.
Yeah, get in a
It's
street
actually
fight or something.
less, you have less penalties like abusing somebody that you live with or domestic partner than you would like attacking a rando on the street. And I was very upset about that, just because I feel like the sentence that her abuser got was drastically less than it would have been if it was just like a random assault charge on a stranger. So the legal system is all fucked up too in all types of ways.
I feel like maybe they do that too because it's like you have some type of rapport, some type of history, you know the person. So I guess from a society standpoint, it's not like this person just randomly went out and decided to fuck this person up, because that's a sociopath in society. Like, that's someone we can't trust to be out in the public, because he's just going to wake up one day and he's just going to want to go like chew somebody's face off. So I guess that would be the only logical reasoning for that,
The
to
relationship
be that. Yeah, the
existing, and
fact
that there
it's
could be like aggravating factors, because there could have been like, you know, just a lot of shit that builds up to
and
a
I mean,
point.
think about it. Like the cops that are doing the arresting, the state attorneys, the judge, everybody who's involved all across the board, everybody's been in relationships. Everybody's been there. They've seen it. They've done it themselves. There might be people out here making these arrests and stuff that are at home beating the fuck out of their wives too.
Oh yeah, I've seen that too.
Like, it's like even like the ones you least suspect. You know, the football coach is putting hands on his wife, or you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, my mom has a friend who's married to an ex-police officer, and he's absolutely physically abusive.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those situations that we're just like,
Right.
we're just waiting for her to figure that out.
And that's a sketchy situation too, because the guy's like a retired cop,
Yeah,
and
he
you
has
know
access to
he's
guns.
freaking
It's
the fuck out all the time. I mean, he could do, you know, the whole murder suicide thing is wild too.
yeah, it is crazy.
So yeah, for my personal thing, I grew up. You grew up without seeing any domestic violence.
No, not in my house.
There was
Just I just heard stories about it with other like family members.
right, same. So I was the same way. My dad and his wife, they never fought or anything. If there was any arguments, it was always handled in the room, and not like in a bad like there's thumping and shit in the room, but it was like they would go in there and they would like sit on the bed and they would talk it out. You know, I remember like being a little kid, and sometimes only a couple times, but a couple times I came in there and I saw like her crying, and you know they were just kind of sitting there working through some shit out. He's like, you know, I'll be out there in a second, buddy. But and then same thing when I, you know, with my mom and stuff, she never really chose a piece of shit guy. And I never really saw any type of domestic violence. But my my married cousins, my cousins on my stepmom's side, I guess, her sister and her husband, my stepmom's sister and her husband, aunt and uncle, I guess, there was domestic violence going on there. Not too much when I was there because, you know, I was the cousin and whatever. So I was an extra set of eyes, but I talked to my cousins that stayed there and stuff, and there was crazy shit going on. I mean, they had a kitten one time, and Ted was his name. He would just go off the rails. He smoked cigarettes all the time, and you know, just one of those guys, I guess, you know. But
Not in control of his emotions.
yeah, he would call the kids like dumbass and butthead, but like playing, but not really. I remember my dad saying, asking me one time, he's like, "Does he address you like as dumbass and shit like that?" And I'm like, "No, he doesn't do any of that." Like, because he really didn't, you know. But I noticed with his kids, he was just kind of derogatory like that. But like it was weird. I don't know.
Yeah, it's cringy as fuck.
As a kid, I thought it was kind of funny as like a joke, like he was trying to be funny. But looking back on it now, I guess it is fucked.
Yeah.
But they had a kitten one time, and all of a sudden, a few weeks gone by, and we went over there like we usually do, and the kitten wasn't there, you know, and like some story about it ran away or whatever. Well, I'm talking to my oldest cousin, who's a year younger than me, and she's like all crying and upset and shit, and the cat is a kitten, right? I guess it like shit on the carpet or something, and Ted picked up the cat and slung him across the house, and he hit his head on the doorknob, and then he was like fucked up for like 2 or 3 days, and then finally like they came home from school, and I guess Ted had gotten rid of the cat.
Oh my God.
And I would never make up a story like that, and we were maybe 11 or 12 at the time, so I believe that shit 100%.
Wow.
Because I had seen Ted like yell and stuff a few times, but you know, and like people like that too, that, you know,
That's how it starts too.
yeah, a huge red flag with anybody is if they can put their hands on animals,
Yeah.
which is a huge red flag. Like that's bully 101.
Yeah.
You know, like that's a huge thing. So I guess we should go over as we go certain red flags that you need to look for with these people, because if people don't have any remorse or sympathy or, you know, anything like that with animals or kids, then it's, you know, you're not going to really, you know. And then I feel like these people hide behind the whole, I do this because I love you.
Yeah,
like
that's
I love you
crazy.
so much, and that's just why I get so passionate that I can just fucking put my hands around your neck, because I just love you that much.
You know what my sister's ex told her, like, while he was on the run for a couple hours before the police got him? He was texting her and calling her, talking about, "I'm so sorry. I was just role playing."
But she got fucked up, right? I mean,
yeah, he was trying to choke her, like,
but
trying to cut her with a knife, like the whole shit.
Was she fucked?
Yeah, she had physically. She has a bunch of pictures on it on her Instagram of what happened.
Okay.
And I'm just like,
Yeah,
sir, that's
that's
where
crazy.
you went. Like, that was your attempt to fucking
It's not-
squash this.
It's not funny what she went through. It's just funny
Like the delusion,
reaction, yeah.
you know, and just like the justification of shit in their minds. It's just like, you're really fucking crazy.
Yeah.
You know, it was insane.
Now, so given the fact that we never grew up around it, you know, and it was one of those things that we were, I guess, kind of taught against or whatever. What do you? Everybody always talks about domestic violence abusers and stuff. Grew up seeing it and stuff like that. Now I know it can be. There's the other percentage, right? You know, the people who grew up never seeing it can get there and do that. There's always the first person to do it or the first person to stop doing it. you think it's like little kids who are seeing their mom throw stuff in the house, and then dad's like fucking pinning her up in the kitchen, like, you shut the fuck up, and like she's over here like, I'm grabbing the fucking knife. I mean, it's back and forth. I've seen videos and
Yeah.
stuff where like you know, it the mom, there are no knives in the house anymore and shit like that. It gets crazy, you know. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on like what breeds a domestic violence abuser?
Honestly, I feel like it's a choice. And I say that because my dad definitely saw physical abuse in his house.
Okay.
And he had the choice to decide, like,
Old
am I
school,
going to
old
continue?
school Puerto
Old
Rico.
school Puerto Rican, a dad who's absent. And when he shows up, he's drunk and belligerent and all that shit. And so, I feel like at the end of the day, it's a choice.
Yeah.
If you want to continue to perpetuate that is actively a choice. I think the people who end up repeating that cycle end up using the whole, oh, well, it happened to me, so I didn't know any better as an excuse. Like, wrong is wrong and right is right. And it's a fucking choice for me. Like, I will never accept the fact that it's like, okay, well, this happened to me, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it to the next person.
Right. Like, I guess for some reason
It's personal responsibility.
yeah, and it's an excuse, right?
For me, it is.
And so what do you think that the cycles are? Like, does it start, I guess common sense would say it starts with verbal abuse, right?
Yeah,
It starts
absolutely.
with like, because we talk about the honeymoon phase, blah, blah, blah. So it all comes down to that first trigger.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm sure these people have crazy fucking triggers, right? I mean, because like to put your hands on somebody, like for me, anytime I've ever gotten into a fight as a kid or whatever is like if my face got touched or like, something like that.
You felt your personal safety was threatened in some way.
Right. So I wonder I guess it starts with the physical it starts with the verbal abuse.
I think it actually starts before verbal abuse. I think it starts with emotional abuse.
Like how?
Like things like lying and, the emotion, you call it mental warfare.
Yeah.
When people just start
Huge,
seeing
yeah.
like how far they can get you. I think the basic form of abuse starts when somebody starts being deceptive with you. And I say that because I didn't realize that I was in an abusive relationship,
Right.
in my marriage because I wasn't being hit.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was this thing of like in my head that, it could be worse. He could be doing some shit that like literally leaves physical marks on me. But,
Right.
things like lying and cheating and gaslighting and all that shit, that's all abuse. We just haven't really defined it that way. And I think that's because so many people experience emotional abuse in relationships, maybe intentionally or not, that they don't even understand like what it actually is. So I think that mental warfare starts and then it gets more blatant with the verbal, like just literally calling you names and shit.
Yeah.
And then eventually it escalates to the physical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I feel like, because I've gotten in arguments as well. My ex was pretty toxic, and like when I first heard her like cuss to me or like say I wasn't shit or something like that, and then I retaliated because I was like, I mean, I've never really had anybody who gave a fuck about me talk to me crazy, even with my stepmom growing up, like she would never cuss to me or tell me I was a piece of shit, like flat out, you know? So I was just like, wow. So then I retaliated with my mouth, right? And at this point, we're just low blows. We're just saying whatever the fuck we can say. And, I'm saying what I think is going to hurt and whatever. And it just is like, after the whole thing is done and then everybody makes up, whatever, but like you're still, at least I was still just like, I felt like it had gotten out of control, and I felt like we had already lost a lot of what I liked about it, like the relationship in general. I just felt like
The respect goes out the door.
Yeah, I felt like a landslide or like a glacier thing. I just felt like a huge chunk fall off from my side of the relationship, and then like obviously she's used to this growing up, whatever. So like that was in some fucked up weird way, like I said earlier about like how she showed her love was like, well, fuck, like as much as she can go south, she can go north too to try to make up for it. So it's like she goes so deep into this whole hurt you, and then she goes totally opposite of the fucking pendulum.
Yeah.
But with the same magnitude too. You're like, what the fuck is going on?
I definitely experienced the exact same
Shit is
shit
weird.
where it's like,
Yeah, it's like, what the fuck? Who
we'd
is
have
this?
that same exact moment. I will never forget this one time that I was just like, yo, this is the universe telling me, bitch, this shit is done, okay? We got into some huge fight because, again, I had suspicions about the cheating. I confronted him. He's like, I'm so sick of this shit. I'm so fucking tired of you always accusing me. Blah, blah. He takes off his wedding ring,
Oh, I remember this story.
which was not made of gold. It was made of like some sort of metal because he was allergic to a lot of shit. So it was like some titanium, whatever the fuck. I don't know.
This guy was allergic to metal and still got married. Red flags, red flags. This guy's like, no, I'm going to get married. I don't care if God doesn't want me to get married. I'm getting married.
So he takes off the ring and he throws it. And we had tile floors. So the ring cracks in half.
But he just like slammed it on the floor.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, just in a fit of fucking rage.
Okay.
The ring breaks in half and part of it hits the glass patio door. So that whole fucking thing shatters. And I'm just sitting there like, the ring is literally fucking broken.
Damn.
Like, if that's not a sign.
What did like the whole door like fall and shit?
No, it
Oh,
was
just
like that glass of the windshield glass that just stayed there. And it was like, wow. Yeah. This is fucking insane.
So what was his reaction? Because I feel like
Oh,
when
he didn't give a
someone-
fuck.
Oh, okay.
He just stormed up and locked himself in his office.
Had he done stuff like that before, like throwing shit in the house?
Yeah, there was like holes in the wall from in our last house, and he punched a fucking hole in the wall.
Oh, he would like
through
punch
another
the wall?
argument.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was just like, I don't want to deal with this shit anymore. This is insane.
Yeah. My buddy Ryan, he ended up a few months ago. I guess we'll take it back to January, but he was getting out of a roommate situation. He was living with a toxic couple, and so he ends up moving into another couple situation. But they're a little older, and then he's there for like a month or something. And I'm like, hey man, how's it going with the whole situation? Because I was kind of friends with them as well too. And he was like, bro. He's like, this is so fucking toxic. He's like, they're arguing literally every day.
Jesus
He's
Christ.
like, the door jamb on the master bedroom door, like the whole door frame has been fucking cracked and there's chunks of wood missing from it. The door doesn't even really function like it usually does. And mind you, she's got an 11-year-old, right? They have an 11-year-old and she's pregnant right now. So she had just gotten pregnant during this whole situation. So she's going through all this, and then they're arguing all the time. And I'm like, what are they arguing about? And he's like, bro, it's the dumbest shit. He's like, it's the smallest, dumbest little shit. And then he's like, 30 minutes later, they'll be fucking on the couch, like, you know, watching TV or something.
I can't.
Eating together and shit.
I
But
can't.
like, but it's like I feel like it gets into a cycle where you're like,
You do.
hey, like, if things are going good, for more than a couple of days, I feel like someone starts to get suspicious and be like, hey, I think that person's fucking hiding something, or they're fucking gaslighting me, and they're thinking that this is actually going good right now. I need to fucking shake the whole shit up. I need to wake up in a bad mood tomorrow.
Yeah, it is the whole cycle. You know, you go through the bullshit, and then somebody does something to fix it, and then you're in love for a couple days, and then you get back to the bullshit. It's just like, you know, it's toxic. It's terrible, and it is actually a thing. Like the cycle of abuse. I think we should go ahead and like put a diagram up here so y'all can see, and then you know.
What, the control wheel?
No, this is like just literally the wheel. You know, circle of like. The escalation, confrontation, the withdrawal,
Right.
you know, the fucking resolution. It just basically goes around and around. And after a while, you just start to cling to those moments of like when you are okay, when things are good, that shit is what gets you through the next day.
It's like the stages of grief, but
Yeah.
for your toxic relationship.
Oh my God. And sometimes you have to just have that shit yanked out from under you through some external event in order to like get the fortitude to walk away. And I know we both had that situation. For us, it was just like our hand was forced in a way that it's like, my fucking life is literally like at risk at this point, staying here. And, you know, unfortunately, it does take that sometimes because love is blind, y'all.
It is. And also, too, you know, I know a lot of domestic violence and domestic abuse comes from the stereotypical male versus male, male versus female. And then we all know that it's obviously not that, right? We all know that it could be the other side. So I
Yes,
just
there's
wanted,
women that definitely abuse men.
yeah, and so you hear people that are in fear for their life, right? Like, oh my God, I don't know if this person's going to hurt me in my life. I feel like I need to go here or whatever, try to protect myself. There are people out here that will get people sent to jail. Okay, there are people out here that are walking around with criminal records or going through some type of situation. My buddy Rich is going through it right now as we speak. A girl that he was just a quick little fling with shows up, and whatever, long story short, he's trying to get her to leave the apartment. She won't leave. She locked herself into the apartment. And next thing you know, whatever was said with the cops or whatever, he ended up going to jail for some type of domestic violence thing or whatever. I think he got it taken care of or whatever because she wasn't showing up or something. But he was like, he called the cops. He said, I called the cops to get this chick out of my apartment. Even though, so I guess like she made a key or something, whatever, right? And he's like, I called the cops on myself to get her out of my apartment. And whatever happened, whatever was said, and unfortunately at 3:00 in the morning when the cops get called, somebody's going to go to jail. That's like a rule of thumb. We already know it's just how it is. And that kind of goes back to why the court system's a little watered down with it, because the courts don't really know, unless obviously if there's pictures of like real injury and shit. It is what it is. But there's so many situations, even watching cops and stuff like that, where you show up and the woman or the victim party, quote unquote, is enraged. They're freaking the fuck out. They're there. You can tell they're the one who's mad, and then the other person is sitting here like, I just want to go, you know what I mean? Or whatever the case is. So I just always keep that in the back of your mind too, that a lot of people are stuck in situations where they don't want to lose their freedom. People can flat out threaten and be like, I will call the cops and I'll have you taken to jail.
That's so crazy that people weaponize the police. I think especially seeing how shit can escalate, especially for men in our society and men of color.
Yeah.
My sister actually talked about that. The first time that she experienced domestic violence with her ex-partner, one of her biggest concerns was calling the cops because she's like, am I going to be the person to put another black man in jail? And then it's just like, fuck, there's so many societal things that we know play into these situations where it's just like, do I want to be that person? Do I want to be that person that calls the police on a man knowing how shit can go, especially if they're like the type of person that's under the influence of something. You don't know how they're going to react to the police.
Right.
So many things could go wrong. And then in a weird, fucked up way, you have to live with that on your conscience. So if something does go wrong, and it's hard because you still love the person, even though they're doing this shit. It's not like all of a sudden your feelings turn off because they're being abusive,
No, yeah.
So it's just like a really fucked up, complicated array of emotions that you have to experience. But y'all, weaponizing the police against your partner is an actual fucking thing.
It's a real thing. It really sucks to even think about some of these situations, and then people end up going back, because they're stuck in the apartment together, and it's crazy to think about a big, strong individual, can be a victim and be like held hostage in a sense in a relationship, but it doesn't have to be physical. So one thing, speaking of Ryan, I guess Ryan's ears were burning. He texted me, but all right. So I'm going to put up on the screen right now for you guys. This is called the power and control wheel. Okay. And then I'll look at it with you as well. But this is for physical and sexual violence, right? So basically domestic abuse. And you guys can kind of read around there. But it says, I'll start with the top left. And it says using coercion and threats. Okay, so making and or carrying out threats to do something to hurt. It says her. I guess this is for, men. But threatening to leave, threatening to do suicide on yourself, forcing that person to do illegal things for you or drop the charges if there are charges brought up. So that's using coercion and threats. Using intimidation, obviously that's pretty self-explanatory, right? using emotional abuse. So this is what we were kind of talking about a little earlier, but a few of the examples that it has here is putting that person down, making them feel bad, calling them names, making them think that they're crazy, playing mind games, humiliating them, or making them feel guilty. Basically, gaslighting.
Yeah.
You know, it's a thing. Using isolation, Jannese brought this up a couple of times. You know, cutting people off from their friends. So it's just controlling what they do, who they see, who they talk to, controlling what they read. Where they go, limiting the outside involvement, and using jealousy to justify your actions.
Oh God, that's the fucking worst.
Right. And then the other one here, now we're at the bottom on the right. This is minimizing, denying, and blaming. So making light of the abuse and not taking the concerns about it seriously, saying the abuse didn't happen, or shifting responsibility for the behavior, saying that person caused it. This is so toxic.
Yeah.
this whole wheel is toxic.
But it's crazy because I'm like, holy shit, I literally experienced all of these things.
Right. Yeah. And we have 3 more to go. So this one is using children. That's probably pretty self-explanatory for you guys out there, making them feel guilty about the children, using the kids to relay messages, threatening to take the kids away, using visitation rights and stuff like that to kind of harass and make sure you're here at 5 o'clock and not 5:05. I'll call the cops if you're late, that type of bullshit. This says using male privilege, so I guess we'll go with it. But it says treating them like a servant, making all the big decisions, acting like the master of the castle, being the one to define men and women's roles. So I guess we'll leave that one there, you know, because you're not really going to have one man saying, I'm a man to another man.
Yeah.
Like, bro, I'm a man too.
Yeah, this isn't a hetero relationship, obviously.
Yeah. So, and then the last and final one is using economic abuse. And Jannese has talked about this a lot as well too. But it says preventing them from getting or keeping a job, making them ask for money, giving them an allowance, taking their money, and not letting them know about or have access to like family income. So that is that wheel right there. And do you have any thoughts on anything other than, you know?
You know, I think a lot of people will potentially identify that they're experiencing these things and they don't even know it, you know? And I think one of the sinister things...
You look really triggered right now.
It's not triggered. It's just like, there's so many people who are going through this, right? And one of the reasons why I even included a whole chapter about love and money in my upcoming book.
Ooh, shout out to that.
Is because financial abuse is occurring in 99% of abusive relationships. Okay. So like it is always going to be a thing.
Ultimate control.
Because it's control, right? Yeah. It's hard to leave somebody when you are literally financially dependent on them, when you cannot afford to get your own place, when you don't have access to credit cards because they give you an allowance, when they have ruined your credit because they've maxed out your credit cards, or, you know, everything's in joint bank accounts. And so you can't even access any money without them knowing it. So I think it's just like, there's so many ways that this can present itself. And usually it's not just one thing that you're going through. It's like a multiple different aspects of it. But, you know, I think knowledge is power. So I'm so glad that you're talking about this.
Yeah, it's that whole thing is crazy because, you know, I kept using they and them, you know, just to keep it on an even keel. But it's... The whole thing is just wild. It's mind-boggling. It sucks that people are going through stuff like that, you know, especially people that are so nice. Like your sister, she's the sweetest thing in the world, right? You know, and everybody has their moments. Everybody can be toxic. Everybody has their asshole, right? I can be an asshole or whatever, but your sister's so nice.
Yeah, and even like nobody deserves to go through that regardless, you know?
Exactly.
It's just like at the end of the day, there's just people who are operating out here like as predators, seeing what they can take advantage of in people. And unfortunately, you know, those kind souls and the people who have just the giving nature and who not are gullible, but just like are very open emotionally and just very trusting. You know, those are the folks that get targeted, unfortunately.
I think what would be cool, and this might be a little bit funny, but I think it would be interesting to see like a Netflix dating show where you get men and women or whatever, and then both sides are people who have done the domestic violence. They have done the domestic abuse, whether it's they have charges to show for it or they have like, their own crazy ass story like Ronnie and Sammy from Jersey Shore, and get 10 men, 10 women, and get them all into a house and see where that goes. Do they end up getting into a relationship with somebody, and then like maybe they've learned from their mistakes, and maybe that person has too, or do they get together and it's just crazy fucking fireworks?
They better have some cops and some therapists and all that type of
That would
shit.
be wild though, right? I mean,
it should be like relationship rehab.
that would be it. That would be it. Where it's like you have a self-admitted abuser, man
Ready to
or
change.
woman, who's just like, look, I've done this. Then you get with some wild ass chick that's like Jocelyn from fucking, you know what I'm talking
Love and
about?
Hip-Hop.
Yeah, crazy toxicity. Like you don't know what's gonna set her off.
Yeah.
You really don't. It's like she doesn't even know what's gonna set her off. So, anyways,
I don't know if they can afford the insurance policy that you would need to like have a show like that, unless there is a strict commitment to rehabilitating these people, right? Because it's like one thing to put two, cage fighters in the fucking ring and let's see how they go down. But like, are you actually capable of having a healthy relationship after you have a pattern of abuse? I do think though that people can be rehabilitated, but at the end of the day, it has to come from an internal decision that like, I no longer want to be this person.
Right.
Yeah.
And also too, I think that sometimes certain love is just toxic.
Yeah.
I think that,
Two people can bring it out of each other.
Yeah, I think that it's just one of those things, and I think that kind of shows itself pretty early. Usually, if there's substances involved in the relationship or alcohol or something, like if you guys meet late night at a club or something, and then every time you guys hang out, it's like that. Next thing you know, and then it is what it is. So
yeah, I think also if like both people are coming into a relationship with unresolved trauma, that shit's gonna come out, right? Like if both of you are not committed to the personal development that we talk about and just like going to get therapy and figuring out your shit and understanding why you are the way that you are, and you just use what's happened to you as the excuse, at that point you are an active participant in your own demise.
Right.
You know?
And it's all about accountability with these situations, even if you are the abuser, it just doesn't.
It's a choice.
It doesn't have to be a bash parade on the abusers either. Everybody has their own story. Everybody, has a reason for why they do make the decisions that they make. So at the end of the day, just because, if you're somebody out there who has done something to somebody, chances are you probably feel pretty shitty about that. I don't know too many people who are proud of fucked up things like that they've done. So if you are somebody who's like that has done something that's fucked up and it's like a skeleton in your closet or something, come to terms with that on your own. It doesn't mean you have to go out and tell the whole world, I understand, but at the same time, you don't need to carry the guilt with you if it's something you've moved on, and especially if it means that much to you and you're fucked up about it that much, you're not going to do it again. You're just not going to allow yourself to get to that point where you're just like, I don't even, I can't even believe that person exists within inside me. So
yeah, I think that's a good reminder, babe, that like just because you may have done something that you're not proud of in the past doesn't mean necessarily that's who you are.
Right.
It can just be that part of you was brought out by somebody with specific characteristics. And, moving forward in a new relationship, you're just going to look out for some of that shit. So it's like, look, if they're emotionally unstable, if they abuse drugs or alcohol, if they're just like not right in the head in some way, shape, or form, I'm going to see that shit and I'm going to see, you know what? I'm happy for you that that's the way you exist in the world, but I'm not compatible with that. I hope you find something that works for you because it's not me.
Yep, and take accountability first and foremost. It is what it is. Own that shit. You did what you did. You were there, and try to lick your wounds and move past it. You know, but don't hide behind. Don't take what Jannese is saying and hide behind that as like, well, you know what? You're right. I shouldn't feel that bad about it because if they didn't do that, and then you're right. It wasn't me. It was them in some weird fucking not accountable way.
Yeah.
Take that shit. You did it. You were there.
Yeah.
Now I want to show. I'm going to put another pie graph thing up on the. And this is the last one, guys. I know. Sorry for the school session here.
I'm here for this. We're here. It's a mixture of entertainment and education.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. So this one is called nonviolence, and then in the center of this one, I don't think in the last one. Oh yeah. So the last one, the center of the pie, was power and control. This one is the center of it is equality. So this is going to be everything that you're going to want to look for, or the things that you're going to want to do, if you know.
You want a healthy relationship.
Yes. Especially some of you people out there that have done some fucked up shit or something. Just listen to these things and just see if you have it in you, right? If it even makes sense. But we're going to start on the top left like we did the last one. And this one starts with negotiation and fairness. So seeking mutually satisfying resolutions to conflict, accepting change, and being willing to compromise.
That's one of my favorite parts about you. It's very sexy how willing you are to compromise and negotiate.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. And then the next one to the right is going to be non-threatening behavior, talking and acting so that she feels safe and comfortable expressing herself and doing things.
Yeah, just like it's what we talked about in the last episode where, I was going through separation anxiety and you're not trying to like make me feel dumb about it.
Right.
You're actually creating an environment that's super safe and you're just like, babe, if you feel like that, just talk to me about it and we're going to walk, we'll get through it.
Yes. And number 3 is respect. Obviously, that's going to be self-explanatory, but listening to her non-judgmentally, being emotionally affirming and understanding, and then valuing the other person's opinions. I mean, it's one thing to just, to be like a talking point and just like listen to somebody, but if you really care, then, you should really at least try to put yourself in their situation and try to see what they're getting at. Trust and support, supporting goals in life, respecting their right to their own feelings, respecting their friends, activities, and opinions. This goes against the isolation thing. Now, I don't know if these graphs are like 1 and 1 for each other. If you were to like set them next to each other, if these are like the direct combatants of the ones on the toxic one, but okay. So that was trust and support. On the bottom, it's honesty and accountability. So what we were just talking about, right? Accepting responsibility for yourself, acknowledging past use of violence, and then admitting being wrong, communicating openly and truthfully. So it is what it is. Everybody's got a blemish, right? Responsible parenting. This is for all you parents out there, right, who are doing the co-parenting or whatever, but it says sharing parental responsibilities, being a positive, nonviolent role model for the children. I think that anybody who's in a leadership role, like a parent, obviously we're not parents, but, growing up and idolizing my dad, there was all these things were there, so it was like, I idolized my dad so much that if I did see him treat women a certain way, or they were servants, or they were less, then I would probably be like that too.
You would have internalized that as what it should be.
Yeah, I would want a wife that's like obedient and shit, and some people like that. It is what it is, but my dad was always a hippie, so we had like literally family meetings at the dinner table, so.
Your dad was definitely ahead of his time.
Yeah. I think he smoked a little weed too. That might have helped.
It opened up his mind.
Those late nights in the garage. All right, so the next one is shared responsibility. So mutually agreeing on a fair distribution of work and then making family decisions together. I think that one's huge too, because it can get, you can start to feel like some of the house chores are there's more of a load, and I could understand where certain things might not really feel fair.
Yeah.
So if you're starting to feel like shit's not fair, or you're starting to feel like you're outputting more than the other person, just bring it up.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you're bitching and complaining, especially if you have like real proof or like real examples of it. Like, hey, I used to do this a lot, and then I spent like a week and a half or 2 weeks, you haven't taken the fucking trash. Why don't you take the trash? Okay. So economic partnership. This is the last one. Making money decisions together. This is Jannese's helm right here, right? And then making sure both partners benefit from financial arrangements. So, and I think that in there is going to have to be the financial accountability too, because sometimes you need your partner to just, keep tabs on you a little bit. I'm guilty of that.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, the first wheel you're talking about is literally just a person exerting their power and control over somebody in a lot of negative ways. And this sounds like what you said, equality. It sounds like you're committed to a partnership that is safe, that there's communication, there's trust, respect, and who doesn't want that? So I'm glad we got those two perspectives.
Yeah, that was something when I ran across that. It was something I really wanted to show on to the viewers, and then it, like you said, it worked out perfect. That this is the first episode for October.
Yeah.
And then I was just thinking about those two wheels, and I would say, you know, if I was a toxic individual or I craved or I came from a situation where I was just so used to some type of level of toxicity, that second wheel, I'm not going to lie, it sounds kind of fucking boring. It
Um,
sounds kind of bland. It sounds very starchy, right? It's like it sounds very kumbaya, where it's like, okay, everybody's having open communication, and like everything's great, and like it's hippity doo dah, and everybody you're doing the bathroom this week, and I'm doing the bathroom next week, and I don't know. It just I could understand from certain people's Latinas.
Shut
Um,
up.
I could understand that some people would want a little excitement, but I
But
would
excitement does not have to equal toxicity.
right. I would say that the excitement would come from maybe staycations or vacations or
Sexy lingerie.
fun things. Sexual lingerie could be a thing. So I mean, there could be. I wonder if there's a healthy level of toxicity. Is that a thing?
No,
Like,
there's not.
I guess it's excitement is what I'm getting at, right? That the second wheel seems very boring. The first wheel is exciting, but in a bad way because there's always something happening.
Yeah,
But
and I think that's important to like figure out in yourself if you're just so addicted to the chaos that you're interpreting that as passion.
yeah,
Because I think there are some people out here who just like they feed off of that chaos, right?
yeah,
The whole idea of like makeup sex or like rage fucking, you know, that's like a thing for some people. And I'm just like, I am way more turned on when I have a partner who is like respectful and who creates an environment that I feel safe in.
right.
Like, I don't want you to get near me if I fucking hate you because you're just always being an asshole.
Yeah, and you know, I've never really enjoyed or liked the thought of like forceful or I've just always been so big on energy and connection that like if I'm honestly I'm one of those guys that where I can't really pick up on a hint, right? Because I'm just like I maybe I don't know. Maybe the chick has to be like, "Hey, motherfucker, I like you." You know? I'm like, "Oh, okay, now I get it." Because I'm not the one who's just gonna be like, "Give me a kiss." You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
No, that's me.
Well, but it was after a little while. But you know, some people can be a little forceful, and then I can imagine in certain relationships and stuff too. You know, where I mean, I've heard of examples of I mean, we're just gonna go with the hetero route right now, but the man come around and be like, "You're my wife. You're supposed to fuck me. Like you're my wife. You're here. I'm here." You know,
Doesn't matter what I do or who I am or how I treat you. You just owe me that shit. That's
yeah,
crazy.
you need to give it to me. And that's, like I said, that's a little bit of the borderline rape culture thing, which is kind of crazy. But going back to what she was saying, some people are into the toxic shit too.
Yeah.
So, you know,
We pray for them.
well, if that's happening, you need to find a partner that's okay to let that shit happen, I guess, you know, because I'm sure there's somebody out there that's into the crazy, vile shit, right?
You know, I'm just like, whatever floats your boat at the end of the day. If you thrive off of toxicity, I mean,
Do it without hurting somebody. How about that? You know?
yeah, maybe role play. Maybe you're going to pretend you're toxic for the day to have some fun, and then you
No,
go back to being a normal person.
that doesn't work. We just heard a situation like that earlier in the podcast. That does
Okay.
not work.
All right. Never mind then.
Scratch that. All right. So, anyways, anything else you want to give on the domestic thing at all?
Well, I think let's put up a hotline here in case you do know somebody or you personally are going through some sort of abuse. Please know that there is support out there. So, you know, call your local domestic violence shelter if you must. We're going to put some resources down in the episode show notes as well. And, you know, like I said, you have to bring these things to light.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, if you or someone you know is going through a situation that looks or feels abusive, please make sure that you do not, you know, let the shame and the guilt around that stop you from getting the support that you need.
Yeah, and you know, any men out there, right? That's supposed to be, you know, it's a tough thing to feel like a bitch, right? You know, it's one thing to let a chick talk crazy to you. It's another thing to let a chick punch you in the fucking mouth and know you can't do anything about it. And so just it's okay to reach out too. You know, is all I'm going to say about that. You know, you're a man, you know what you're comfortable with, but you know, there's ways to go about it where you know you can, you know, like I said, you can use BetterHelp as well too. Like you can do that without even face to face.
Yeah.
So that's a huge thing too, because you know if you don't want to have anybody see you cry or they don't, you know, you want to hide your identity, whatever. I get that too. So No judgment when it comes down to your own mental health, your own physical health, and your well-being. Like there's no shortcuts to that stuff, and there's no reason to kind of hold back on that stuff either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You might as well drink 2 liters of Coke and eat a whole pack of Oreos every day. I'm not guilty.
Are
of
you
that.
talking about your own coping mechanisms, my love?
Well, maybe back in the day. I eat like 4 Oreos. I'm good. And shout out to Mama Marga out there. I did stop drinking the soda again. I had a couple of sodas in Puerto Rico. That's my biggest advice for you guys out there. We'll kind of go on a side tangent. But
She's very worried about your health.
hey, that's okay. It's fine. I respect it. But so I've always been bad off on soda. That's why I don't buy it for the house, is because if I have it, if it's there, I'm just going to do it. And I think that comes from my childhood of like, I grew up with hippie parents, right? So there was like ground tofu instead of ground beef. And like, it was wild. But anyway, so I would come around and get the soda, and the soda was just there. So I quit drinking the soda. But when I was in Puerto Rico, I was like, and I actually did good. I waited like the first 3 days or so, and then I was like, no, I'm getting a fucking soda.
No,
But
it's a work in progress.
yeah, sweet tea is my thing, which is no better. Okay, it's no better. But the junk food and stuff is all pretty much fucked off at this point. Okay, so we're gonna switch it up for you guys.
Yes.
We have another Am I the Asshole?
I want to talk first about the meeting family and friends real quick.
Ooh, this is good. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so next thing.
All right. So we have had some, what is it, like milestones in our relationship recently. Obviously, you mentioned in the last episode, we just hit our 6-month mark.
We did.
And so in this time frame, we've been introducing each other to friends and family. And so I wanted to just get your opinion on like, when should you start considering introducing your new partner to your friends and family circle? So for me, I thought it was important to kind of go in order. I definitely wanted you to meet my family first versus my friends.
Okay.
Just because I kind of like, if the family is not on board, then what the fuck is the point of meeting everybody else, right?
Sure.
But I think especially like as a Latina, we still place a lot of emphasis on like how our parents feel about our partners.
Right.
Not that that's necessarily healthy, but I think there is just some certain level of like approval that we seek
Right.
with who we're dating. And I know that in the past, I actually like actively didn't give a shit about what my mom thought about my exes. And she never liked any of them. So I almost took it as like, well, she's not going to like anybody. So like, I'm not even going to care about this.
Yeah.
So I was very like, I want them to like you because that's a thing I've never experienced. And so when you met them last month, or my sister and my mom and my niece, and they all gave their stamp of approval, I was like, oh my God, the first time in my life, they actually fuck with somebody that I am with.
Right.
So it was a nice feeling. And I think it helps prevent what I experienced in the past, which is this feeling of like I had to choose. And
The separation.
Yeah. So I felt very isolated in my marriage because my ex did not get along with my family. My family did not fuck with him.
Power and control wheel.
And so it was almost like I had to pick and choose who I'm going to be with. And it sucked. So knowing that I don't have to experience that with you is like, it's a nice feeling.
Oh, thank you, baby.
Yeah. So I don't know if it was as much about like time for me. It was just about, I don't know.
You were ready pretty early.
Yeah, I was definitely ready to introduce you because I just felt like, you know, this person's different. Like, this is not what my family would expect in general. And so, yeah, I don't know if there's a specific timeline for me in my head, like when they should meet. I think it's more about like, how serious do you feel about this person?
Right. Yeah, so for me, it was opposite, right? And I know we haven't gone and actually hung out with my friends in the flesh. And honestly, I haven't in almost like 2 months at this point. You know, both of my buddies got into relationships literally like right after the last time we went out. But you've met a couple of my friends via FaceTime, stuff like that, you know, or chilling. But for me, I would always want the friends to kind of meet first. Just because like at least they can let you know if there's any red flags or anything that they see before you bring them around the family. But I've also, I guess, given the fact that I'm a guy and then I am the only boy, I've only brought 2 people around, and that was 2 people that I had been with for a couple of years each. So that was just those 2. So for me, it was I don't know if it's like I don't know if I feel like it's a sacred thing. I just want it to be like, if you're going to meet my mom and my family, then I want to have confidence when I look at them and I introduce you. I want them to know that, like, okay, she's going to be here for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, this isn't, you know, God, if
It's
they,
not the flavor of the month.
no, I mean, my mom would just be like, you know, sure, okay.
Puerto Rican mom gonna tell you about yourself real quick.
Yeah, I mean, even like when I was going through my little single spell and stuff, she's like, "So what's her name this week?" And blah blah blah.
Oh God.
You know, she's just, you know. So I just wanted that. I didn't want her to think that about someone I was serious about. So I've always protected that. I always kept that, and she knows that. She's aware of that as well too. Because I remember she was like, "When are we gonna meet Jannese?" And I'm like, "It's gonna, you know, in a minute. You know what I mean? It's gonna be a while.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm gonna make sure. I'm just gonna, you know, take my time on this one and make sure." And she was like, okay. And then you were the same way too. You know, you're like, I'm ready to see you. And like, there'd be like little things. And I was just like, you know, maybe for my birthday, you know, maybe around my birthday, maybe something like that. That's just what felt like would be enough time for me to kind of gauge how everything would go. But that was also before we were spending a lot of time together too. So, but it worked out the way that it worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that, I mean, I haven't had anybody guess or, you know, question anything or anything like that, because they can just see that I am happy. They see that I am confident in the love that we have as well too. So, and plus, like, there's no convincing going on. Like, I'm not running around being like, "Oh, she's so great," and blah blah blah. You know, when people have asked me and stuff, I'll tell them certain things, but I'm not just like going around being like, "Oh my God, we did this, and we did that," and like, she's so good this way, so good that way. But you know, I think that it's an important step to meet people that you care about. With the friends, I think it's a little easier than meeting the family, just because, like I said, at least they can gauge and see. You know, we just went out with your friends the other night, your Zumba crew. Shout out to Mama Marga again. But the Zumba crew, it was lit, you know, and everybody was very nice, and you know, like it was cool. You know, then your friend. Saida.
Yeah.
She had a couple of questions, but not really. She just wanted to know, you know, how we met and, you know.
Well,
the
everybody
things I
knows what I've
felt.
been through too. So, you know, they were the crew that kind of, you know, enveloped me with their love and support when I was going through my divorce and stuff. So, like, they already know what I've been through. So they're looking at like a new person. Like, are you here to bring the fuck shit, or are you here to like make her happy?
Yeah.
And so, you know, it was nice to feel like everybody could see the change in my energy versus like in the past. You know, I was just a completely different person, you know. And so the fact that like they're able to perceive that gives them a lot of confidence that like, oh wow, you know, this is not the same bullshit.
Yeah, there was a few times I was just, you know, staying really in my own lane or whatever and kind of enjoying the show. But there was several times when I looked up and people were side-eyeing me and stuff, like, you know, catching me, like trying to see what my, you know, your actions and
What's
stuff.
his vibe?
Yeah, and like what you're, you know, what you're doing when you don't think anybody's watching or something. You know, I'm a people watching person as well too. So people have little nervous tics or little things or whatever. So every time I looked around or something, there was always an eyeball. I'm like, ugh. And plus, it didn't help that it was all women.
Yeah.
So there was two other guys there, and I mean they were cool, but I didn't really chop it up with them too much. So, anyways,
Yeah.
it was great. I had a good time, and I mean everybody I've met in your circle has been wonderful so far. So
I love that.
yeah.
Yeah. All right, y'all. So, you know, I think trust your gut when it comes to the timing for meeting, you know, friends and family. If you feel like you don't want to introduce them to somebody, I think that is a huge red flag. You probably know there's some shit that nobody's going to like about
Or
them.
you're embarrassed.
That
Yeah,
too.
if you're embarrassed, like it's, you know, someone who maybe you think is attractive, but maybe you are worried that other people are going to be like, why are you with this chick?
Yeah, if that's the case, that's fucked up.
Yeah, you shouldn't be feeling like that.
Yeah. So, you know, you trust your gut, and it is absolutely a red flag for me if like you don't want to introduce them to your circle because you feel like there might be something wrong with them, or you've already seen some things that you're just like, ooh, I don't know if this is going to come out.
Right.
I know when I spoke to my sister, we talked about this, I want to say on my show, where I invited her to like talk about her situation and all that. And she said one of the big things for her was like she did not want her ex to meet us because she already knew. She already knew we were going to detect the bullshit.
Yeah.
And then obviously when I go and start doing my private investigation and find out this man got a 20-year track record of fuckery in the legal system, I was like, oh, that's why you didn't even want me to know his last name, girl. Because you already knew I was going to find out all this shit.
Yeah.
So, when in doubt, throw that shit out.
There you go, folks. Okay, now, are you ready?
I'm done.
Okay. So now we are doing you guys' favorite segment. This is it,
Absolutely.
right? Am I the asshole? It's going to go up. I'm going to read it for you guys. Actually, you know what? I read the last one.
Okay.
I'm going to have you read this one.
Okay.
And she hasn't read this one, so you
That's
guys
the
are
blind
gonna
reaction.
See, pure reaction. as they go.
Okay. All right. So the title is, Am I the asshole for going on vacation without my husband?
Let's go.
My husband, 32-year-old male, and I, 29-year-old female, planned a week vacation in New Orleans. We, but mostly I, have been planning this for months. Back in March, I told him I would plan most of it, where to go and what to do. All he has to do is make sure he had the week off and buy the plane tickets. I spent the last few months researching what to do. I booked the hotel room, made reservations at places we wanted to try, and made a list of all the sites I wanted to see. Every few weeks, I would check in with my husband to see if he asked for the time off and bought the tickets yet. He said he was waiting for the plane ticket prices to go down. 3 weeks ago, I reminded him again, and he said he had gotten off of work for the days but had forgotten to get the tickets. And when he looked online, the tickets were close to $1,500.
Dang.
He said he was going to wait some more. FYI, that never actually happens.
Works.
Okay. Last week, I asked him if he bought them yet, and he said no. We looked again, and the prices were still high. He said he wasn't willing to spend that much on them and asked how much money I would lose if I just canceled everything. He offered a nice staycation instead, and I told him I was not willing to cancel everything because I spent so much time planning it. We argued and did not come to a conclusion. I wound up buying just one ticket for myself, and when I flew out on Saturday, I told him I was still going, and he acted all surprised that I didn't stay home with him.
You're going to go?
I'm in New Orleans now, and he's blowing up my phone saying that I'm an asshole for still going without him. He was trying to get a ticket to come too, but I told him if he came, he was getting his own hotel room because now this is my vacation away from him. Am I the asshole?
Yo. So the last part had me. I was in there for the whole thing, and then when I saw the last part, I was like, I mean, to get the hotel room is crazy because now, like, if I'm the husband and I'm like, oh well, then now I'll go. And then she's like, well, if you do end up coming and making an effort, you're going to have to go get your own hotel room because this is my vacation without you. Well, then why the fuck am I going to come? And then when you come back, I'm going to feel some type of way, right? I'm like, damn, what was all that about? What are your thoughts?
He was...
She's like, get it, sis. Hell yeah, girl.
He was very low effort. He was very low effort. Like, just the fact that he's just like dilly-dallying about the fucking
complacency.
Yeah. She's like, why are you mad when, like, she basically has told you for months, she's like looking forward to this shit and you're just not taking it seriously? For me,
maybe he didn't want to go.
Well, then say that, know, then don't get all butthurt when she like hops on the plane and still goes without you when she literally gave you like X amount of opportunities to make this shit happen.
Yeah.
I just feel like he's kind of using a little bit of guilting, the guilt trip shit to like excuse his lack of effort.
Right.
And I have no sympathy for him.
And I'm not going to lie. I mean, she went out there, I guess I would assume probably by herself. It all depends on where she went and stuff too, and whatever. But
New Orleans is a party city.
Is that where she said she went?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So, I mean, we're actually going to be out there.
Yes, we are going in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. So that's going to be sick. But if I was in his position and she said that and stuff, I would take that as a weekend to have the house to myself.
Yo,
I mean,
facts.
I got guy time. I get to, if I want to, lay around the house with my balls out, like, I mean, it's like real bachelor shit. I know she's not coming back. Doesn't mean I got to do some fucked up cheater shit, but I know she's not coming back. So if I want to order a pizza and watch a fucking fight, or, if I want to get hammered, if I want to buy a 12-pack and just get hammered, I don't have to worry about having conversation and shit. She's gonna be like, oh my God, you're drunk again.
Yeah.
At least he can stumble around the house like he was in college again. You know what I mean? It's nice to check in. So for me, if I was him, I'd be like, you know what? You're right. Take the weekend, cool yourself off. It's straight. Enjoy yourself. But I wouldn't be blowing up her phone and on some, oh my God, she's going to cheat on me shit, because people who think about people cheating are usually the ones who are doing the cheating. got to think about it. It's reverse psychology 101. If these people are like any type of weird situations too, right?
Yeah.
Where you're like, I'm at the gym or something, and you're
Yeah.
like, I'm at the gym, and you think I'm fucking somebody at the gym. This is crazy. Like,
You know, if your brain automatically goes to they're not with me, so they must be doing some nefarious shit, there's a reason why you have those thoughts. You know, either the person, the way that they act, maybe they do go ghost whenever you are separated. You know, maybe they're the type of person that's like always on their phone when you're with them, but all of a sudden when you call them and shit, they're nowhere to be found.
yeah, I guess I could see that as a
Like
thing,
that
yeah.
shit irks the fuck out of me. I'm like, how you got your goddamn phone in your hand 24 fucking 7?
That's not me, by the way.
It's not. But I definitely experienced that in the past. There's always a reason why you are suspicious.
Yeah,
And, you know,
I feel like guilty conscious though on your own half too.
yeah, like how do
know?
you move when you're by yourself? That could be a thing too.
Yeah, because some people, I feel like when they feel guilty, it's they're gonna put that energy on other people too, and you're like, what
Yeah.
the fuck are you talking about? You weren't even thinking about that. You know what I mean? We were not even thinking about that, but this guy's over here talking about some crazy shit, and we're like, this guy's got something on his mind. This guy's got something weighing on his chest.
Yeah. I think he's a little paranoid about what she's going to do. Maybe she has done weird, suspicious shit in the past.
Yeah.
I know, like, if you were to ever go on a solo vacation, I know you're going to be sitting in the hotel room, like, watching YouTube.
Or at the
And
pool.
drinking a
You might
beer.
be sitting poolside.
Yeah. But, you know, it is what it is. And I'm the type of person, I'm like, I used to go on solo trips when I was married because I just needed to get the fuck away from my ex-husband. Now I'm not really feeling like the craving of like, oh, I got to go and get away. It's just not, it's like I don't feel that need to escape in that same way where I think I was using it sort of as an escapism as in the past.
Yes, I can kind of see that with you, even though I didn't know you before.
Yeah.
But it does help that we do live separate, right?
Yeah.
We do have our own houses, and it's like not even in the same part of town.
Yeah.
So it's different scenery, different vibes, and we do different shit at each house. Just because of the different parts of town and stuff. So it is nice to have that. I think that's what makes it better. But also, I mean, even when we eventually move in together and stuff like that too, I don't know if just like you're not going to really crave staycations or vacations, solo vacations as much, or if ever. Same thing with like my alone guy time and stuff too. I feel like maybe that'll just be found in a different way. Maybe it'll, maybe I'll be working on a car or something out on the driveway. Or,
Yeah, you do like to just find busy work and things to do in the house, which I think is your time to
play
decompress.
in the garden and stuff. I mess with the yard a lot. I've got a bunch of live plants and stuff that I'm a little botanist over here, but I don't have to get away from the person to necessarily enjoy my time, unless there's
conflict.
No, not conflict, but maybe there's a time where I'm just I just want to blast my Bluetooth in my house and just drink some beers and just fuck off for a few hours or fuck off for the day, grill some burgers by myself, just me and Riley chilling in the house. Yeah. A little bachelor thing, but certain things you gotta let go of, right? And then also, I mean, going back to this thing right here, you're gonna have business conferences and you're gonna have things that come up throughout our relationship that's gonna grant me those 1 night, 3 night, week-long things where when I do get to all right, she's gonna be out of town, maybe I'll fucking, let loose a little bit. Not that I can't let loose now,
right.
but I'm just coming up with situations where it is healthy to have your own hobbies and stuff, and your hobbies do not have to include
each other all the time.
Right.
I do like the idea too. I've seen more of this conversation coming up where folks are choosing to be long-term partners but not live together. Or maybe you buy a duplex and one person lives on one side and one person lives on the other, and then you go visit each other's houses and you go and date. Rich people do this shit too. You're
you stay
I've
on
heard
the West
they
Main.
have or they have a whole ass house, right? And there's a tunnel that connects the houses or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to that idea. So who knows? We'll see.
It is. It's a thing, I guess. I don't know. I've never really been in a situation. It's always been in apartments and houses for me, so I don't really know. But I've always been like pretty much any other guy. If I have like a little space for, my
The
tools
man
and
cave.
yeah, and I got my fish tank and shit too. Like I got my little hobbies or whatever. I do need to. I've been looking on OfferUp like crazy. I am planning on getting into the car flipping thing again because it's so much fun. I like lifting trucks, lowering trucks, and not like I'm not gonna like buy a Volvo and detail it and then put it back on Craigslist to make $500. I'm gonna get something that, and then
It's a project.
do like a little custom thing to it, lower it, stuff like that. So that's all fun because you get out there and even if it's boats and stuff, and you're buying these things, you're fixing them up, you're flipping them, and you get to use them while you have them too.
I love that. That's fun. And I think that's a good reminder that like you can be in a healthy relationship, but also need your alone time, need your space, have your hobbies. And it's not necessarily like, oh, I just need shit to get away from them.
Yeah.
It's like, we just have individual things that we like to do. And
Yeah.
it's fun.
You could do things without being away, right? I could be in the garage working on a jet ski.
Yeah. While I'm in the house baking some bread.
It's a thing.
Yes.
Just go away for an hour or two.
I love that. And I love you.
And I love you. And we love you guys. So don't forget, check out BetterHelp. I'm going to put the domestic hotline. I probably already put it in the video, but I'll put it again, and then we'll put it down in the description of all the videos for this month. And then look forward to, I think I have the last 2 days of the Puerto Rico vlogs. I have that video that I have to do. That one should be up within, probably within the next couple of days. But I did put up the last couple videos on the YouTube channel. So if you guys are interested in the vlogs of our Puerto Rico trip, I put the photos from our photo shoot up in El Junque by the waterfall. Go check that stuff out. Super fun. You get to hang out with us, kind of pal around with us, daily vlog style. And then is there anything else maybe you want to say? Or?
Yeah, so just a reminder to follow us on social and to leave us a review if you listen to this podcast on Apple. That is the best way to help us continue to grow. Make sure that you're sharing us with your friends and family.
Yes.
I want to read a quick comment that we got on our Instagram. If you want to follow us on Instagram, it's Corazon Chronicles Pod. So I put up a reel about how soon is too soon to move in. And Elvita333 said, each relationship is different. I was friends with mine for 2 years before we became more than friends. We moved in after 1 year of being together. That was 15 years ago. We've been married for 6 years now. I would still say every relationship is absolutely different. And then we had the price of avocado toast comment. We moved in 3 months after meeting and everything went very fast from then on, but it's always felt right for us. And they have beautiful children together, an awesome podcast. So, it is what it is.
I love that for them.
Yeah. So thanks again, y'all, for tuning in. And we will see you next week. In the meantime, go follow, subscribe, share, do all the things.
Get that. Peace, guys.
Bye.
See you next week.